old concept of the people, by the people, and for the people. We've got of the people. And if we're sure that it's going to be by the people, and certainly for the people, Kevin, you're going to need help. You're going to need the help of one person in particular, and that's your spouse. Gail, please come up. Tell us about your spouse.
Good afternoon, everyone. I did write down what I wanted to say, even though I could say it all from my heart. But with me being a teacher, I find that if I go blank, at least I have something to lean on. Kevin asked me to introduce him, and I said to him, well, what do you want me to say? And he said, well, you can say anything. And he really did want to see what I was going to say. So I thought, well, what better person, because I know him better than anyone. So I'd like to share some of my thoughts on our life together and the values that we share that shape the man before you. Well, first of all, some of you may have heard how we met. We met, and you can call this faith, we met on a shuttle bus. I was coming back from vacation. He was coming back from a business trip. My first impression, well, Kevin was an engineer, or is an engineer. He was a little bit nerdy, but he had a warm presence about me. In fact, I can still remember what he wore. He had on a polyester shirt and a polyester pair of pants. Now, polyester was in the late 70s. So.
It was in.
Despite his, initial impression on me, he had a certain warmth about him. And when I met his family at a family gathering in Reading, Pennsylvania, I really noticed that warmth, and I was sold. When we married a year later, our pastor told us that our marriage that would be an adventure. And it has been an adventure, full of many challenges and blessings. Kevin never takes the easy way for anything. Challenges give him the fuel to move him forward. An example is, early in our marriage, Kevin had been working on his engineering degree for many years, part-time. And I said to him, don't you think maybe we should get this finished? And he said, okay. So me being now the academic person said, well, let's do it. So he took a leave of absence from DuPont and went and finished his degree full-time. But at the same time, he said to me, well, why don't you go get your master's? So at that time, the two of us were in school. I had a $300 a month stipend to carry me through my master's, which wasn't much even in the late 70s. And we did it. I'm not sure if I would have done it if I didn't have Kevin urging me on, saying you can do it. Soon after Kevin completed his engineering degree, he had the opportunity to start his own business. His first job was on an oil rig, an oil platform in the North Sea. And I can remember how proud he was when he got that first $2,000 check for work that he had done on his own. So although our careers were thriving and flourishing, we really felt that something was missing. We really wanted children in our family, but it didn't seem that it was to be. So we decided to adopt. So after 5 long years of waiting, we got a phone call one night, late, it was like 10:30 at night, and I remember because it was St. Patty's Day. And they said, we have a 2.5-month-old baby girl for you. And there she is. So we both had really busy schedules for the next day. We had to kind of rearrange things. But we met her on a Friday, brought her home on a Monday. That is the fastest pregnancy waiting I want to see. But this was an experience that transformed our lives forever. To this day, we value life. We value life more than anything. And we believe that Marty's birth mother gave us a wonderful gift. And now, 25 years later, we are blessed with 2 grandchildren, Owen and Kira, and we have a son-in-law, Anton, who's over there managing Owen. And you may have already met Kira in some campaign events. She's been with us for a long time with those. And in case you're wondering who Junior is, well, that's Kevin. So Owen is just a year old, and I'm sure he will soon be part of the action. Those early years as a family passed rapidly. Our family was strengthened by our faith in God and our belief in the importance of family. We found that parenting had its own challenges. Kevin has very traditional values, in case some of you haven't noticed that yet. He is a person who never gives up. Once he makes up his mind about something, he sticks to it. You can't change his mind. Whenever Lauren would complain to me about that, I would tell her to talk to her dad, and I was kind of the sounding board for her rebellion, but she rarely challenged her dad. Once Lauren was in school, I was given the opportunity to work full-time at the university. I was a bit worried because it meant I had to go back for my doctoral degree. And so once again, Kevin encouraged me. I'm not sure I would have done it and spent 6 long years in school without Kevin's gentle nudging. He often had to do without home-cooked meals, which is something that he really enjoys. And after I finished my doctorate, his only complaint was that he never wanted to see a ham slice for dinner again. Our extended family has always been a large part of our lives. Together, we supported each other through the grief of losing our mothers and Kevin's father. Unfortunately, my dad is 93, and he's still with us and eager to help campaign with Kevin. My dad is a retired colonel of the Delaware National Guard and a proud conservative. In fact, he sends Kevin information daily about conservative issues just to make sure Kevin stays on track. This campaign will not be easy, but as I said earlier, Kevin never takes the easy route. Kevin loves our country and truly believes that he can make a difference in Washington. He wants to preserve this country for our children and grandchildren. I believe that if anyone can beat Mr. Carper, it will be Kevin. God bless all of you who will join us in this exciting adventure.
Yeah, I got tired of ham slices. Before I begin, I want to wish Tom Carper well. He loves his family, he's a man of faith, and he loves his country, there is no doubt. But I tell all of you, I would not be standing here today if Tom Carper had done the job he was paid to do. I hear recently from the leadership in Washington that Americans have turned lazy. Well, Washington and that ruling class that has overreached their power so long do not know the same Americans that I know, because I have traveled around this world. I know how hard we work, and Americans are the hardest working people in this world, and we just have to get out of their way. Now, I would not be here if Tom Carper had done his job. I would be doing what I would love to do, which is to go to work this morning in my shop that I started 30 years ago. But the work isn't getting done. And the Tom Carpers of Washington, the career politicians, haven't done the same good job that a cab driver does, or an electrician does, or a pipe fitter does. They haven't earned their wages. They haven't gotten the problem solved. So it's up to us, all of us regular people, your neighbors, your people from church, the folks you see on the golf course, or shooting pool in the pool hall, regular folks to come together to lift this country up. because the career politicians have broken it down, and we have nowhere to turn now except to rely on one another and each other to fix what's broken and to set things right. Now, let me begin. Let's get to work, Delaware. Let's get to work. Let's get started now. My name is Kevin Wade. It's a short name and easy to remember, Kevin Wade. I am not a professional politician. Not too many years ago, it would have been unimaginable that I would even be attending an event such as this. Many years ago, it would have been impossible to consider standing before such an event as this. And I dare to say a few years ago, most of you would not have been here either. But the world has changed. I am not a professional politician. This was not my ambition or interest. I'm an engineer. I started and continue to run a small engineering business. I'm married, I'm a father, and now I'm a grandfather to two wonderful children. I'm proud to call this good man, Anton Kalaji, of the proud Kalaji family, my son-in-law. I am blessed to have family who are friends and friends who are family. My cup runneth over. I am not a rich man. Not in the ways of money, but rich in the important things in life. I grew up on the harsher side of a gritty factory town in Pennsylvania. On cold winter nights, ice would form not only outside but inside the bedroom window on the third floor of that row house that I shared with my brother. And I'd yell downstairs, I'd say, "Mom, send up some more heat." And she'd answer, "I'm saving it for the girls." And she was right, as she almost always was. I shoveled the coal that we used to heat that row house. And sometimes the coal would run out before the winter did. There were times when the dinner plate was empty before your stomach was full, and you knew not to ask for what couldn't be given. My mom by herself, 4 kids. We did without, but we stayed together. We took care of each other, and that's the important thing. And I learned the value of the dollar. I went to work in the steel mill just a few days after high school. I dodged the hot steel, earned a decent paycheck, and quickly changed from high school boy into a hard-working man. I waited for a letter very common in those days for 18-year-olds. It came in a government envelope, and the opening line was "Greetings from the President." Some of you remember. Well, that letter, that draft notice never came, and I never quit working. And I learned the value of hard work. I went to college when I wasn't in the mill. I began to get a firm foothold on this idea of the ladder of American opportunity. A few years later, I accepted a job in Delaware with DuPont, working there in the day and studying engineering at night. I tell people I wasn't lucky enough to be born in Delaware, but I got here as quick as I could. I was very lucky in another way. I was very lucky in another way after coming here. I took just the right airplane flying home from a distant construction site one Friday night, and a very pretty lady, for her own reasons, changed her flight plans, and by circumstance, we ended up in the same place at the same time at the same airport. And 33 years later, she's still my wife, and we're still on life's journey together. Thank you, Gail. I started my business on my kitchen table at the age of 29 because I didn't know how hard it would be. But that's what Americans do, and they work through it. I had the fundamental idea that you could simply do things better on your own. So I joined the world of small business and found the rough and tumble exhilaration of free enterprise. I've continued to run that business all these years. We work for the biggest companies around the world, and we hold our own. And we also help some little startups kind of get started. We treat all with respect, and we work hard for every penny we earn. We are known for fair dealings, for solving problems, for inventing things that need to be invented, and most of all, keeping our word and getting things done. And those are qualities you won't find in Washington. Unlike the government, we can't force anyone to pay us. We have to earn every penny we get. To do my work, I've gone around the world. I've flown over the great oceans, I've flown over the pole, I've gone beyond the date line, and I've gone south of the equator. All to make a living, take care of a family, and grow a business. But the best flight of all is the one coming home. It is the coming home from so much hard work that brings me here, that truly brings me here, to be standing in front of you at such an event as this. For you come home after a long day's work to see what needs to be done. Cut the grass, fix the fridge, change the oil, look at that leaky roof, make plans for tomorrow, and see that the kids are okay. Like you in this room and like people across this state, one day I looked up from my work to see how my country was doing. And what I saw sickened me. I saw our prosperity, the work and sacrifice, the attention to detail, the inventiveness, the overtime of 12 and 13 generations since the beginning, squandered in the bad hands of those in Washington, run like water through open fingers by the bad hands of those in Washington. Our ancestors built the richest nation on earth. And in a very short time, we have become the world's biggest debtor nation. And debt, Glenn, debt destroys jobs. Thank you. I saw the values of our American homes collapse under the weight of foolish Washington policies. I saw the jobs in the heart of American industry traded away in bad Washington bargains. They traded away our good jobs, and what they got for us were closets filled with cheap Chinese sneakers, and that's a bad bargain. See, Washington has been very successful at creating jobs, just not in this country. And that has to change. I have seen for 30 years every meaningful effort to unlock the oil resource of America and deliver it to the benefit of the American people, blocked by career politicians who say, well, it would take 10 years to see any relief. Well, 10 years have come and gone several times. Washington continues to bleed our economy to buy foreign oil, and that's a bad medicine. And this day we have 2 carrier groups in the Persian Gulf and the Indian Ocean to see that foreign oil flows, putting our men and women in harm's way, and that's bad medicine. If we have American treasure under American feet, can't we put Americans to work to bring it up and put it to our own good purposes? The career politicians have put America in the abyss. Washington took what it never owned. Washington spent what it never earned. Washington destroyed the work of 12 and 13 generations, the work it never built. You and I did not break this country. Washington and its self-serving career politicians did. And that's why. Today, the federal government's debt is over $15 trillion. It's over 100% of GNP. Now, that's a fancy way of saying that if all 308 million people in this country stopped eating and just worked 24 hours a day for the next 12 months, all of us, as debt slaves, we couldn't pay down that debt. It's greater than everything everyone in this country can produce. And now they're demanding even more debt be piled on our tired backs. They have no ideas, no plans, no understanding, no solutions beyond preserving their own political prestige and positions. Today, 40 cents of every dollar that's used to pay your Social Security is borrowed money, some from foreign hands, and that can't continue. We have to take care of our own. Today, 40 cents of every dollar that goes to pay the salary of our men and women in uniform defending our country, 40 cents of every dollar is borrowed money, some from foreign hands. And you know, that can't continue. How do we ever maintain our own security and sovereignty with an economy so shattered and weak that we don't have the revenue to pay for our own soldiers? Who will defend us if we can't defend ourselves? Now they look beyond us to our children and our grandchildren as Washington's mountain of debt threatens our children's birthright for an American life. But we won't give up our children into Washington's hands. We won't give them up to work as debt slaves for 100 years. We, the people, have simply reached the breaking point. We've reached the hard stop. The line is drawn. You won't touch our kids or our kids' futures. We are awake now. We slept for too long. We accepted too many cotton candy promises that came to no good. America can't heal as long as Washington is broken. Washington can't fix itself. It can only be done by the will of the people working together to carry our broken nation on our shoulders across this abyss to put on the firm, solid ground of a new American future. Join me in this task. Join me in standing up for our country one more time to carry it to safe ground. Show courage put aside our differences. Let us welcome independents and Democrats who see the same problems we see. Let us join together to take on this work. There's a greater good involved. And if you will join me and stand with me and have courage, then I announce my candidacy to be the Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate from the state of Delaware. I'm not going there to find comfort or make a career. I'm going there to do a very hard job. And then, like with every job I've done in my life, I'm returning home to my family. I support a term limits amendment. I will term limit myself. I will serve 2 terms and no more. I go there to fix the problems, not become the problem. We already have that. We have to reduce the size of this bloated government. I will set the example by cutting the size of my own senatorial staff by 10%. Someone has to start moving in the right direction. Let it be me, and let it be now.
Yes.
They can't put their hands on my grandkids. That's what it's all about. We have to make a complete overhaul of the federal tax code. I learned in speaking across the state that everyone, left, right, and center, has no confidence in the present tax code. They know it's not fair. We will discuss in a 2-year statewide conversation that extends beyond the narrow bandwidth of any single campaign what answer Delaware wants me to carry. For when Delaware tells me what message to take, it's my job as Delaware's voice to take that to Washington. We will reduce the bloated size of government, find the right size of government, a structure that works efficiently and effectively to provide the essential services for the needs of our society. We will restore a healthy and proper focus on the family. A mom and a dad raising their children according to the values taught in their home is the essential building block of any good, strong, and just nation. We will respect and protect life from the moment of conception to the last natural breath. The measure of any just society is the willingness of the strong to protect the weak. We are called to stand in harm's way and protect the most vulnerable and the most innocent. We will end the corruption and insider dealings known as crony capitalism. Products and services compete in a fair marketplace to meet the honest needs of this country. No more will we let Washington loot the public treasury to fill the pockets of well-connected insiders. The taxpayer's wallet is not a tip jar for the friends of those in power. It comes to an end. It's time for our leaders to read the U.S. Constitution. It's time for them to read it and, more importantly, believe it. It's what has protected us through these centuries. It's not an inconvenience. It's not an historical artifact. It's the law of the land. It's the assurance that future generations will find in their own time, as a free people, their own perfection of democracy in this American republic. In closing, the hope and strength of America is in her people. It's not in the monuments of Washington. It's not in this political party, and it's not in that political party. The strength of America is the beating heart of our freedom-loving people, aware that we have been blessed by the Almighty to understand that we must give America intact, shiny, and anew to our children and their posterity. As long as we trust one another, our exceptional character as a people will see us through all storms. We are not here for narrow purposes. For we commit this day to saving this nation and rebuilding this country. Let me close now by saying, God bless all of you. May the Lord's countenance smile upon your face. And may God save the United States of America. Now let's get to work.